Fuck yes. Welcome out to the night. With me, as always, is Jonathan Hardesty, Samantha Garrison, and Emily Blake.
Hey.
This week we have special guest, Gabriel Figueroa.
Hey.
I was going to let Emily introduce you because she's the reason you're here, but I'm greedy and I like introducing people. Hi, Gabriel.
Hi.
You should get a job doing that, like being an introductory person.
You're about as good with words today
Well,
as
you
I
could
am.
be you could be the Oscar host. We
Well,
don't
you know
have
what?
one.
Oh, yeah,
A
that'd be
week
good.
out of caffeine with no caffeine will do a lot to you.
That's
This bodes
that's
well
very fair.
for this podcast.
Well, I have plenty of caffeine, and I have another one over there ready to go. Gabriel, do you have anything to plug to introduce yourself today, or no?
Not at all. I'm just I'm a trailer editor. But
Okay.
That really is just my main job. And no, I am not moonlighting in any other type of profession.
The HBO trailers, the ones that are like, "What's coming up on HBO? This is the Greatest Showman" or whatever. He did those.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is there anyone that you're particularly proud of?
I mean, it's always the ones that never see the light of day.
Of course.
It's always your favorite cuts that get killed by the client. The HBO ones have been pretty good. I actually have an upcoming trailer that'll probably be dropping in the next couple weeks for Vincent D'Onofrio's directorial debut, maybe. It's a Western, not necessarily about, but revolving around Billy the Kid.
Oh, cool.
And
Chris
I got the
Pratt,
trailer.
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah,
Oh,
Ethan
dope.
Hawke and Chris Pratt guest stars in it, and the kid who played the Green Goblin in the Andrew Garfield movies plays Billy the
Dane
Kid.
DeHaan. I love
Yeah,
Dane DeHaan.
I always get his name wrong. So I'm pretty happy with that cut, and it
Yeah.
should be dropping in the next week or two.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
Then with that, let's get started. Where have you been doing? I can go first. I got ridiculously depressed this week when I watched Jim and Andy. Has anybody else watched Jim and Andy? No. It is the documentary about the making of Man on the Moon, where Jim Carrey basically thought he was Andy Kaufman for the course of like 3 months and was horrible to people on set because he was trying to be Andy Kaufman and figured what would Andy Kaufman be like if they were making a movie about Andy Kaufman. And we got that. And it was good until they get to the part where Andy Kaufman dies. And they don't explicitly say this, but I think Jim Carrey kind of had an existential crisis because he thought he was Andy Kaufman, and Andy Kaufman was dying. And I think Jim Carrey thought he was dying. And, like, he talks about it, and it's like, he's, like, essentially broken by the end of the movie. I'm like, this is horrifying. This is why method acting is a bad idea. And it's an incredibly well-made documentary. The only reason I watched it beyond I Like Man on the Moon was because it's the same guys who did the Fire documentary that just came out on Netflix.
Oh.
And I heard that was really good. And I'm like, well, I want to see what they made before this. So I wanted to watch Jim and Andy. And it's a very good movie, but man, I was depressed by the end of it. Because they try to have some like positive stuff in there, but it's still just like, oh, now I'm sad that Andy Kaufman died. And I'm sad that Jim Carrey basically killed himself to play him. Like, none of this seems like it was worth it.
Method acting.
Yeah, it's just like I don't think I would ever want to do that. I don't know. I think it's worth watching if you're interested in Andy Kaufman or Jim Carrey or why Jim Carrey is so weird now compared to how he was just normal weird then. This will explain it. John, what about you?
So through audiobook, I listened to one of the Witcher books in the Witcher series. The second one is a collection of short stories. It's called The Spear of Destiny, and it's kind of the lead up to the big saga, the stuff that Witcher 3 is based off of, the game. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's kind of fun how they blend the fantasy creatures in there, but they also like make some digs to like Little Red Riding Hood and like all these fables that just kind of weave their way in there, and like this like, and they make commentary on it sometimes. It's kind of an interesting thing I wasn't expecting from coming from the game, which doesn't have really that kind of thing to hear. And it's a fun book.
I've heard they're fun books, but I also heard they're very dry.
Yes, I started with the short story. I didn't start with the short stories. I started with the one in the saga. Yeah. And the whole first prologue and first chapter, it was like a bunch of people talking politics of the land. And I bounced so hard. So I think the audiobook will be a little bit better because I have no choice but to listen to it in the car. I could just, I guess, jump out of the car, but we'll see how it goes.
Extreme reaction when you can just hit the power button, but whatever works.
All extremes, yep. That's me.
Sam, what about you?
I have been watching Schitt's Creek, which I thought was going to be really dumb because the advertisements all make it look really dumb, and it's called Schitt's Creek. And it's actually really heartwarming and really good. It kind of reminded me of Santa Clarita Diet, where like it's this wacky sitcom, but in the middle there's like this really like this family that's actually like they're dysfunctional, but they like each other, and no one's like a dumb stereotype, which is nice. Yeah, so that's cool. I don't know. It's good. Check it out. It's not as dumb as you think it is.
Emily, what about you?
I have a pitch for a horror movie next week, and as you may know, I don't really watch horror movies. So, but the idea that they sent me really sparked something, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." And it's not super gory. So, I have spent the last week watching horror movies like nonstop. I have seen 10 horror movies this week.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's a good week.
It's a good week. I'll talk about, I'm going to split it up this week and next week. But one of the ones I finally watched The Witch, guys. I finally watched it. And you're kind of both right. Because there was naked dancing. That is accurate. There was levitation, which I appreciated. There was a goat. Yes! There was a goat. There was a singing goat. There a whispering goat. I guess the kids were singing. The goat was whispering. Either way, there was a lot to enjoy. But it was also really depressing and dark and like, ugh.
Yeah.
But it had the happiest ending. Hashtag Team Satan.
A lot of child death.
Those children were creepy.
Spoiler.
Well, not all of them were creepy.
Anna Taylor-Joy wasn't creepy. She was just kind of nice.
She
she
got the happy ending.
She did not.
Did she? I would just be like, I don't. Can I just have the superpowers but not write my name down?
Yeah.
Is that like can we make a secondary deal?
Like, can I sign this Daffy Duck?
Yeah. Or maybe I'll sign it later.
Yeah.
I'll sign it later. Just give me superpowers now.
Yeah.
And
Can I have a trial period of the same
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
90-day free trial.
But I watched a lot of movies, but that one was interesting. I also watched what I watched, Woman in Black. I watched The Purge, which there's some debate about it being a horror movie, but I feel like it had a lot of horror elements. I quite enjoyed it. It was
The
just
first
a
one is.
great movie. I really enjoyed it.
The sequels are even better.
Oh, I'm looking forward to watching the
I
sequels.
love the second one.
The second one's fun. It's a fun movie.
I really like
It's
the second
dumb as hell, but it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
That's on my list because I've got a whole other week, almost a week to go for just inundate myself with more horror movies, and I'm just taking notes on like what is scary and what is not scary.
Right.
So that's been fun. Also, the Strangers. The Strangers really. People always ask me if being a script supervisor takes me out of movies, and it usually doesn't. Like I'll notice something and I'll keep going. The Strangers, it ruined it because there's a clock on the wall, and if there's a clock on the wall, I will see it, and I will know what time it is. And there's a clock on the wall in one scene, and then they go outside and do a bunch of stuff, and they come back into the same room, and the clock has the same time on it. And the whole rest of the movie, they were really good about the clock. But in that one scene, the clock didn't move. They forgot to change the time. And once I saw it, it was broken. The spell was broken. So the whole rest of the movie was not even remotely scary to me because I was just like, you forgot to change the time of the clock. And I'm sorry, I realize that's a really mean thing to say to the prop department, but it just did it. It just did it.
I can see that.
So I didn't mean to talk about a million movies right there, but I saw a million movies.
You saw,
or 10. I saw 10 movies.
You saw 10.
That's close.
So you can just do the next 5
Round
next
up.
week.
Close enough. Last but not least.
All right. So actually, I have a very guilty pleasure. I'm not very unapologetic about it. I love The Good Wife, and I'm actually on season 6 right now.
Nice.
But that's not what I'll plug. I actually, in today's theme, I just recently saw Netflix's To All the Boys I've Ever Loved Before.
Oh, okay.
Which actually happened to come around, I think, a couple weeks around Crazy Rich Asians. And I just only recently saw it. And I'm not, of course, the audience for romantic comedies. We'll get into Crazy Rich Asians. But about the Netflix one, I genuinely loved it. I thought it was so earnest and unpretentious. And like the casting was great because a lot of these kids actually look like high school kids.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of other high school movies, they don't. And I just loved the premise. It was very fun and charming, and it had a lot of pop, and it had the teenage angst and insecurities without us getting heavy-handed about it. So yeah, really liked it.
That's on our schedule coming up in the upcoming months.
Oh.
It did get bumped from the week that it was going to be, but it will eventually be on our schedule.
I love that movie. And they're making a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Wow. I will see it at some point for this show, but I have not yet. I think it's time to get started talking about some Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah? So Crazy Rich Asians came out earlier this year, and it did fucking gangbusters, and did gangbusters pretty much everywhere. Did pretty good reviews, made a shitload of money that I can't look up because our new location does not have internet, or at least not good internet. So before we do anything else, I think we should do a 30-second breakdown. Breakdown? Gabriel, are you confident in your ability to break down the entirety of Crazy Rich Asians in 30 seconds?
I am gonna improvise this.
That's it.
I didn't prepare.
Perfect. I like it when people are honest about not preparing and they don't just, like practice it the whole night before and come in and just like rattle off in 5 seconds. That's not fun for us. I like to see people succeed.
That's how I did it. I definitely prepared. I had it memorized both times.
A lot of people do, and then a lot of people don't, and those are the funny ones.
Yeah.
All right, we ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right, Crazy Rich Asians in, I can't say that fast, 30 seconds. Here we go.
Rachel, whatever her name is played by Constance Wu, is an economics professor at NYU of game theory, and she has been dating this dude for a year who has, for some reason, not mentioned that he happens to be super wealthy, part of, like, Singapore's oligarchs. And then he's like, hey, let's go home. And she's like, okay, cool. And then they're flying in first class. And it's like, oh, my God, this is like the beginning of a serial killer movie. And then she has to go over there and meet her family. And her mother is a total...
And that's your 30 seconds. You made it 10 minutes into the movie, I think. Yeah. That's pretty good for a 2-hour movie. It was a complete failure for a breakdown, but, it works.
Yeah. I mean, you can totally tell I've done this before.
Well, we appreciate the effort.
I should have rehearsed.
Nah, this is better.
It's so much better when they don't.
Yeah. Okay, so Crazy Rich Asians was a movie that just did not grab me. Like, this was just not a movie for me. I'm not a rom-com person. I'm not usually just a romantic movie in general person. Like, it's kind of a tough sale. And if it wasn't for Sam telling me over and over and over that I need to see it, I don't think I ever would have, or even put it on this show. So I honestly think the better person to lead today, or at least most of the discussion today, would be Sam, although I did not tell her that would be the case. So she might say no to that.
Ambushed.
Actually, I will say, watching it last night, a few months removed from like the joy of seeing it in the theater, it's based on a really popular book series by Kevin Kwan. And I read the books, like, they kind of went like wildfire around our office because one girl had the Kindle files and sent them all to us.
Nice.
And so we were all obsessed. Like, all my coworkers, we made a night. We went out for Malaysian food, like had the Hainan chicken rice because the book is just like food porn. And watching it last night, especially because Will was watching it with me, like peripherally, I realized it was a movie made for book people.
Sure.
Like made for fans of the book.
Yeah.
Because like all the stuff that you're talking about in the breakdown where it seems like a serial killer movie is like better explained in the book. Because Singapore's oligarchs are like notoriously private and cheap. So they don't flaunt their money. They think it's really tacky and whatever. So it was really interesting watching it because I saw it like, and also the editing wasn't very good. So it was like, this movie was great for me because I love rom-coms. There hadn't been any for a while. I love lifestyle porn, and it was based on a book that I think, like, the book series is so freaking good. And, yeah, so that was interesting. I don't know. It was really interesting watching it again because I totally understand why someone who hasn't read the books or isn't into the genre would not be grabbed by it at all.
Well, yeah, that's it's like I can't tell you the amount of rom-coms I've seen in theaters. I think I could count on one hand, and I won't even use all my fingers. Like, it's just not a genre that's done anything for me, and I can watch them and appreciate them. Like I did this one. Like, I think this was a very well-made rom-com.
Especially at $60 million, portraying stuff that's like so far out of that range. Like, that's impressive.
And I thought the style of it was really fun. Like, I thought all of it like worked really well. But when it came down to it, I'm like, but this is still kind of hitting every rom-com trope. So the stuff that I'm able to like to predict in rom-coms, not that predicting rom-coms is a bad thing. That's kind of what you're sitting down for. But since I was able to, it's kind of like, okay, so I know what this movie is, and I can enjoy it for what it was. But I just kind of sat there and just kind of let the movie happen.
I mean, the climax is the airport.
Yeah.
You know?
Not even just the airplane.
Yeah,
like they're on the plane.
It's such a rom-com cliche.
Yeah, it's the same ending as Wedding Singer. Like, it's just.
I
like,
was thinking a lot about Wedding
But
Singer.
The Wedding Singer is also a legitimately great film.
Yeah.
I don't disagree
Nobody
with
talks to Billy that way.
I know.
I don't disagree with you.
I guess it's like one of those things where like I buy into the genre in a way that I don't probably any other genre, just because I love sitting down for a movie that I know will be non-violent and women will actually get to talk.
Yeah.
Sure.
I overall really enjoyed Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
It has some issues. It has some problems that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But overall, I just, it was a sweet story. It was very much about, mother-daughter, mother-in-law, I guess, relation, mother-son, all the parental
Parents.
relationship.
Parents,
Parents,
yeah.
but specifically female parents. Because dads just didn't enter in the picture, which I found interesting.
Sequel.
Yeah.
He's not like, his dad lives in Australia and just never really comes around in the
Yeah.
books. It's like a joke when he does.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But
I assumed that was something like later she has to prove herself now to the dad. Like that's
Yeah.
what I thought that was.
No, he's a very nice man and likes her.
But
right
he does
away.
show up in the later books.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's obviously her dad, which is like a
Yeah.
cool mystery that they laid
yeah.
out.
Okay.
But I liked the whole.
I get it now. I get the appeal. Like, sure.
But I like the whole trying to sort of define what it means to be a wife, what it means to be a mother, what it mean, her definition. I had an interesting discussion about Americans, all seeking happiness. But although I do wonder, because this movie is meant for an American audience, not an Asian audience. So I wondered how much that would play out in reality, like that discussion. But it was still really interesting, sort of looking at the definition of all of that and how different characters respond in different ways. I appreciated that. It's all in all, I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I did too. And it's not something I think I'll ever rush back to, but it's not something I would turn off if I came upon it.
I would.
So what didn't you like
Yeah.
about the movie? When
How
we
much
booked,
time do we have?
Well, give me a bullet point. Like what's like if you had to say I hate Crazy Rich Asians because what would it be?
Well, my first issue with it is I actually don't think it's a very funny movie. There, like if you ask me, I mean, are there any laugh out loud moments in it?
Aquafina makes me laugh, but
Aquafina steals every scene.
yeah.
But again, is there like a identifiable laugh?
Does there have to be?
Well, it's a romantic comedy.
Yeah,
so
but
then
I
the
mean,
comedy
I'm
plays a
thinking
big.
like a million romantic comedies I've seen where I didn't go.
I think
know?
of romantic comedies in the same way that like The Witch, romantic comedies are funny in the same way The Witch is scary. Like there's no jump scares,
Okay.
but there's a feeling. And like I think romantic comedies are kind of like soda pop where you just have this consistent bubbles. You know?
I mean, maybe the more accurate way to refer to the genre would be like romantic silly, because I mean, there's kind of a silliness to it that is kind of fun and a little bit more mirthy than like laugh out loud or slapstick.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
there's even some slapstick in there, so you could throw that in. I think the expectation of comedy, strict comedy on romantic comedy seems.
Because I think we've sort of changed the definition of comedy. I mean,
Yeah.
in Shakespeare's era, a comedy simply meant a story with a happy ending.
Yeah.
That counted as a comedy. It didn't necessarily need to make you laugh. So maybe this
I didn't
is
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
That's the difference between comedies and tragedies, that comedies have a happy ending.
so I mean when you look at it from that definition, yeah, it's a comedy. But it's I don't think it wasn't not funny. Like I don't think I can't remember any like specific like oh that's the scene you got to watch because that's the funny scene.
Bok bok bitch.
I like
yeah.
the montage with the dresses.
Yeah,
Ugh, I love a good montage.
It had a
Especially
good
to,
montage.
like 80s music.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this was a very much rom-com montage.
Also, Cousin Oliver is just the dream.
He's great.
But that's the thing is like there's plenty of things that made me chuckle. Like there might not have been like a scene that I went to, but like I think the majority of the movie, with the exception of I'm forgetting her name now, the friend whose husband is cheating on her.
Astrid.
Yeah, with the exception of
Who's
Astrid.
played by
Gemma-chan.
who
Yeah.
plays me on Humans, which is
Oh.
so good.
But with the exception of Astrid, like most of the movie is very pleasant. So like it just kind of, while not being laugh out loud funny, it's still just kind of enjoyable to be there.
So now that you bring up Astrid, then here's another issue. Okay. If you take out the scenes with Astrid and her husband Michael, do you miss them?
Oh no, not at all.
They're not doing anything for the plot.
They're setting up sequels.
Yeah.
They're the Benedict Cumberbatch showing up in Thor 3. Like
Yeah. so then that's also a problem. Like okay, like Addams Family, I saw it recently, and it has a couple of like non sequitur scenes,
Sure.
but are hilarious.
Yeah.
Like they bring down like those are the scenes that you remember most of the time. And then that's one of the issues I have with Crazy Rich Asians. You have these subplots that actually have nothing to do with the main plot that you could literally cut them out of the movie.
And you feel that way about Ronnie Chang, which I feel
I-
sad because I love
exactly.
Ronnie Chang so much.
Yeah.
I actually most of the family members, they're just like again, they're there as to be side gags. But they're not even great side gags.
Well, I'm not sure if they're sight gags or if they're just more. It's just more fodder from the book. Like this.
No.
It's kind of like what Sam said earlier. This was very much made for fans of the book, which is fine. But I'm always on the side of when you adapt a book, you adapt it. You don't just recreate it, because I think when you recreate books and movies, I feel like you lose something in filmmaking. So you should focus more on the movie than you did on the book. So
I
did
agree.
you need the other storyline of the divorce? No, not for this movie.
Well, and you
What I
could have.
think was interesting about this, though, is it's franchise building. Like, we live
Yeah.
in an age where everybody wants a universe.
You need one.
And I
apparently.
think we don't get as bothered by that in Marvel movies. And
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we've seen a rom-com attempt to build a franchise. And I think, like, people that
Bridget
read
Jones'
the books...
Diaries.
Well, yeah.
Well, the only one that I was going to say would be, it's not technically it's not a rom-com. It's a fucking guy-com or whatever you want to call them. But Knocked Up did that too, because they had that and then they spun off to This Is 40.
Yeah.
But that's more of a spin-off than like a universe. But like
Yeah.
even when it happened, the main reason they said it worked was because the Avengers had started it. And if the Avengers hadn't been there, they couldn't have made This Is 40 because they couldn't prove that it worked. And I think
Yeah.
now we're just seeing it more and more in movies. And you might be right. This might be
Yeah.
the first time we've actually seen it in
And
a
I mean,
rom-com.
it's also a Warner Brothers movie, so they may fail at building this franchise. It's...
Warner Brothers doesn't fail at things. What are you talking about?
No, but like, I think that's what was interesting is it's different in that sense that it is like trying to build a franchise.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree. Like, Astrid is my favorite character, and Gemma Chan is beautiful.
It's
like,
gorgeous.
I'm never going to
Yeah.
complain about looking at her in fine clothes. But yeah, it was just, her story's also so much more complicated in the books, and so watering that down was it like, she definitely got short shrift.
And it does feel different from the movie in that
Oh, yeah.
way.
Oh.
And like even more so than other things that are a lot more. There's still serious things between the A plot, but this
Yeah.
just kind of like.
Well, and
This-
she doesn't meet her future love interest until a credit sequence. And
Which
like,
I only noticed on the second viewing.
yeah,
I
and
missed
it's
it on
like,
the.
How are you
in the
not
first
going to
viewing.
have someone as charming as Harry Shum Jr. appear a little bit earlier? Like, he's so cute.
I didn't even know that was supposed to be a future love interest. I was so kind of just like, oh, this movie's over now. That when that happened, I was just kind of like, oh, I wonder who she's
Oh
talking
look,
to.
yeah, it was like, oh look, hope for her.
That's like the
or
first
something,
time we
you know?
saw Thanos in the Avengers. I
Oh.
was like, what's that purple dude? And everyone else is like, that's Thanos. And I'm like, I don't read your fucking comic books.
Look at his nutsack chin. That's
Yeah.
Thanos.
Yeah, I was like, look at
Someone
that
drew a fork
dashing
over.
man. That's Charlie.
But
But that's a very interesting comparison though. I didn't even think
Yeah.
of.
well, that's the thing. Is like I think the Astrid storyline. Like if you know that this is a book, which I only did because I've talked to you. Otherwise, I didn't know this was based on a book. I knew nothing about this franchise. But knowing that it's based on a book, I can look at the Astrid stuff in the movie and go like, oh, this is for sequels. I get that. But at the same time, kind of to what Gabriel's saying, but it still doesn't add anything to this movie. So if we just want to think about it like as a movie on its own, we have this very random's the wrong word, but like kind of random, very serious, very sad story inside of this very happy one that they don't really intermix that much. Like one doesn't really affect the other as much as I thought it should.
This might have been really cool as a TV show because we have all these
Yeah.
different relationships, all these different characters that you could have explored more fully had you drawn it out to a, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
guess
that's
you
where
could-
we come up against the racist nature of TV and everything. Where so if this was a TV show, it wouldn't sell. I don't think.
Well, you have Fresh Off the Boat. I mean, there's
Yeah, that's kind of
starring
parody.
Constance
Yeah,
Wu.
yeah.
I think also, like, I think HBO could have done it because
Yeah.
they've got this habit of taking shows that were shitty when white people were in them and making them good by adding people of color, like
Yeah.
like Ballers and Insecure. So I think this could have been like, you know how like The Sopranos is about like a shitty white family. This
Yeah.
could have been like Asian Sopranos.
But that also, I mean, they do have Succession going on right now, so they're not going to do Succession and this. 'cause
the
those would
Asian
be-
Succession.
Yeah, Asian Succession.
The better
Succession
version.
and Succession for Asians.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Some
doing
days,
that.
some days, I just wish we were more honest about that. Everyone would be like happier or madder if
Yeah.
we were just honest about all of this.
I mean, it's 2019. People are just mad all the time. But what else? Okay, so if we're just going for the comedy and the Astrid storyline, was there something specific about this movie that just wasn't just like the filmmaking in general? Was there something in this movie that?
Oh
Really
yeah,
worked?
I'm not rooting for the couple. I'm not invested.
Okay.
I do agree with you there.
I'm not invested in them. I'm not quite sure. I mean, like they're both beautiful people.
Oh, yes.
No denying that.
I liked how often we got to see him shirtless.
Yeah, and
good-looking guy.
actually the filmmakers said that in interviews that they actually made a point to kind of like put that gaze in to kind of like celebrating, uplifting Asian male sexuality and what, which is not something you see a lot in Western cinema and whatnot. So like they went out of their ways to
I think
feature
what
that.
Asian men are the least often chosen on
In
Tinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not rooting for the couple. Like, I'm not really sure what she sees in him. Again, besides the superficial, like, she's like, every time something's going wrong, he's like, oh, don't worry, it'll be okay. Like the dead fish. Like, they left a dead fish on my bed. Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my God. That is like his attitude toward her being like, yes, everyone was mean to me and they put a dead fish in my bed. And he's like, oh, that's no big deal. It's like, oh my God, that's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then later on, when after he's not going to be with her because of his mommy, when he like offers her the ring, he's like, I need to talk to you, and she won't talk to him for like days and days, and then finally he talks to her and he's like, so anyway, I'm glad we're talking, let's get married. And it's like, what? No, just breeze past everything that, like, he thinks he's very much a rich boy, he's so privileged, he thinks everything's gonna be fine, he thinks like, I don't get what's the big deal, everything's fine all the time, let's just throw money at it.
It's like that joke that Christopher Titus has, is like, when your friend shows up at your place crying, I'm never going back to him. You're not going back to him. I'm never going back to him. Next week they're getting married,
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe that's what having this be just a movie, then I guess, based off there's books and all that, does the disservice, because we don't get enough time with them to like them or root for them nearly as much.
Nick is still really vacant in the books.
Mm.
It's very
But, like,
much a movie, a story about women, and all the men get like totally.
interesting.
Yeah, that was
other
my.
than being rich and handsome, I don't quite get what's special about him.
He's like, I mean, he's also like a professor and stuff in the books, and he's really like.
Did they ever say that was his
No.
job?
No,
Said he had
no,
a
I have a
job.
comment on that.
He likes
Yeah.
to play basketball at the Y. That's like the most detail we ever got.
No,
about
he's
him.
like really, really smart. He is a professor at NYU with her, and like that's how they
What a
met.
weird thing to admit.
I know.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could have just shown them, and then that would have given us more personality and more of their relationship if they'd showed them interacting on campus.
But they straight up treat the men in this storyline like they treat women in a lot of
true.
men's stories.
Interesting,
which
yeah. Interesting.
It still doesn't work. Like, it's still just infuriating, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, I did love when Astrid godfathered Michael at the end, though, where she just leaves him in a doorway and shuts it. And it was like, you godfathered him. And it made me so happy. But yeah, no, that's honestly the biggest problem with the books, too, is like Astrid and Michael's relationship is so much more interesting. Kitty Pong, the one that gets caught like sleeping with the guy from Silicon Valley at the wedding.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
right.
actress.
She becomes like a main character.
Oh.
And her story is super interesting. But like, yeah, Rachel and Nick, they're just like, so everything is fine.
Oh, well, she goes on the bachelorette party. It's like, hey, babe, maybe I should let you know ahead of time that my ex-girlfriend is going to be
Yeah.
with you over the weekend. And again,
she's
like,
a real bitch.
yeah.
In the book, she drops a bomb that he had a threesome with her and another girl that was there.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Again, you
Yeah,
admit
I was,
that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, okay. And they're so cool about it. Like, well, you didn't tell me you were rich. You didn't tell me that, I hung out with your ex-girlfriend this weekend, and you're so blasé about, the dead fish in my room. Like, I'm having a hard time.
So here's where I'll push back a little bit, because I can see every point that you're making, and I don't think that you're wrong. Like, I don't think like the omitting that he was rich, like all this stuff totally makes sense. I think in a different movie, like I kind of appreciate that this movie kind of went, yeah, that's all really serious stuff. We want to be fun. And it's
But-
like, we could get into the weeds and all this, like if we wanted to, and we could be that movie, and it would be a good movie, or we can just have fun over here and just kind of go like, yeah, those are problems,
But then
but
when
let's.
she found the dead fish, it wasn't fun.
Yeah. I think
But
the
then
movie-
she buried it. They even
Yeah.
used it as like a joke, like, I buried it. It's like, why wouldn't you just throw that thing in the trash? It's a ripped up dead fish. Who
But
cares?
it wasn't shot.
it wasn't played for laughs.
I realized I said I like this movie, and now I'm arguing against it.
I just wish.
happening.
It's
Shades
tough.
of gray.
Like, it's a great movie to
Yeah,
watch,
yeah.
but it's like,
I don't think
When you break it down, it doesn't necessarily hold
Yeah,
up.
I don't think the movie is calling itself on its BS sometimes.
Oh, no, it doesn't ever.
and that's my
Yeah.
problems with like some of those are very dark elements. I admit,
Yeah.
but they can be played for. We've seen plenty of dark comedies where they play dark situations for laughs. And not that I can think of the top of my head right now, but like have fun with it. But at least like address it. Like at least acknowledge like, hey, this is a really messed up situation. Like.
Yeah.
Like, okay, one thing they could have done was what if instead of just having that conversation, I'm not looking at the microphone. one of the things they could have done is if they were been having that conversation, they were having it on a couch, which, by the way, for writers, is the most boring possible. I mean, and that, of course, that may not be the writers. That might have been just also the location. But putting two people on a couch to have exposition or an emotional conversation is just a really boring choice. But you could have had them eating dinner, and he orders her fish, or something. And she's just like, oh, I don't want, and then all of a sudden you have something more, like something motivated and something more interesting happening.
It's interesting that you mentioned that the books had a lot more food element into it. Because apart from that scene where the friends are eating in the beginning, food barely factors into the rest of it other than like the dumplings.
Yeah, the dumplings are a
And
big part.
to what you were saying about the couch, have them eating and more food. Like maybe that would have helped a little bit more.
Some of it was budgetary constraints.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like $60 million, and they had to make every party, everything look like several million dollars.
But like until you mentioned it, I had no idea that food was an important part of this series.
Oh, there were a lot of scenes of food in this movie.
There were a lot of scenes, but it seemed like
it made me
they're
hungry.
Well, food and
Really
Asian
hungry.
culture, like everything revolves around food and Asian culture.
Yeah. But like,
It's not racist. My wife is Korean, by the way.
But it is very interesting that was like, it wasn't the first obvious, like, oh, this is going to be about food or food's going to play a part in it. Until like the dumpling scene, I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to weave food thematically into the movie.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't play a part in it. It's just that they are constantly describing what everyone's like. Reading a book is such a different experience because you get the rich descriptions and everything, and that's I think that's what Brian was saying about adapting it. It's like you could just they're at a restaurant eating food, or you could adapt what they're going for, the rich language you talking about food. Like do that visually. Yeah. I mean, totally off the beaten path. Like Hannibal does that, and it's just about like there's so much food element in there that it's. If the cinematography had been like it was in Hannibal, and all the clothes and cars and stuff were shot like you wanted to have sex with them, this would have been a perfect movie.
Probably.
Like I would have just been like, "This is my new porn."
Probably in the sequel.
That seems like a good segue from talking about food, but also we cannot get by without talking about the costumes.
Yeah.
The clothing in this movie is fabulous.
It is.
Everyone looks gorgeous.
That
montage scene, I would have worn like all of those dresses.
Yes. My favorite thing, too, is most of the jewelry they couldn't afford to rent. Michelle Yeoh was married to a Hong Kong billionaire, divorced him, and has basically lived the life of a crazy rich Asian. She loaned them her personal collection. That ring.
The green ring, yeah.
The ring is hers.
Yeah, all of it's hers.
Oh,
almost all of
hers.
it. Yeah, anything she wore was hers. Like, this woman is, like, Michelle Yeoh is not fucking around.
She's amazing. Michelle Yeoh.
Got snubbed by the Oscars.
Yeah, she's like a goddamn goddess. And I'm so
so
excited
good in
about
this.
her getting her spin-off of Discovery. I will watch every second of it.
Yeah, she's like a legit crazy rich Asian. And then Chris Aquino, the woman at the end that's like the princess that like is sitting by herself.
Oh, okay.
She's
That's
also
kind of
like,
a weird scene. That's clearly a sequel bit.
No,
Or-
that's just what happens. Like, there's
Oh.
this woman who is like not cool, but she's like a
Yeah. No, I just
The
wish she
Singaporeans
sort of
don't
seemed
like
to come
her.
out of nowhere and then go away.
yeah,
sort
and
of
it was
like,
definitely like a cameo appearance. She is like the biggest celebrity in the Philippines, like loaded, has the most dramatic life. She is like royalty, and so I think it was like a cameo to kind of get her in there. And because you'll notice like there's like random cutaways to her face through the wedding, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Well,
this
just like
isn't-
didn't you say the grandma is a huge star in China?
Oh yeah, the Amma. Yeah, she's a big. Yeah, she's like the Meryl Streep level of like celebrity in Asia.
Chewie immediately recognized her.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
The second she came out, she's like, I know her from like a billion movies.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I'm trying to think like what the. I'm trying to think of a good place to move to from this because we haven't really talked. We keep talking kind of about the characters, but we don't really talk about Rachel specifically. And the movie is really Rachel's story. And it's Constance Wu who played her, right?
Yes.
I think she did a really good job. Like I really like Constance Wu, and I think she seems like a very like kind of outspoken and positive person. And when she gets good roles like this, I think that's exciting. But I just don't think the movie gave her much to do, and that could be kind of what you're.
funnier than what.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
She's a
fair.
funny lady.
Bok bok, bitch. More of that, please.
Yeah. Could it just be her? Like, her and Aquafina played off of one another
Yeah.
so well. They had the most chemistry of anybody in the movie.
If this had been like a bromance, because there's no real term for women, which there should be, movie between the two of them instead, if the movie had focused on them more instead of the romance, actually it might have been more awesome. I don't know. I want to see more of them.
Yeah, because the two of them together were hysterical,
Yeah.
and they were like you could tell that they were friends. And then the scenes between her and Michelle Yeoh were also fantastic.
Electric, yeah.
The rest of the movie, though, she didn't really have it. Like, I don't know the guy who played Nick's name, but I thought he did a good
Henry
job.
Golding.
Yeah, I thought he does a good job, but I didn't see the chemistry between the two of them. I don't think
I would watch a movie of Michelle Yeoh, Awkwafina, and Constance Wu just going shopping. And
Yeah,
that's the
like-
whole movie.
because the three of them are so good that everyone else has to try to match them, which is tough.
Yeah.
And I wish that Constance had as much to do as Michelle and Awkwafina, because those two were able to steal every scene they were in, and that's only because they didn't give her anything to do, because she's very good and she could own this movie, but when they give her a character like this, there's not really much she can do. Like, she can act the hell out of it and she'll still be the most forgettable person in the movie.
And you see that immediately with the scene at the I'm drawing a blank, near the end when she confronts Michelle Yeoh. Like,
yeah.
that scene was, I was at the edge of my seat.
That was great.
As they
Oh,
were
those,
doing-
those two ladies are sitting there like she's like, oh, they don't speak, they don't understand what we're saying. So it's sort of like, but they're just like la da da. But they had to have been wondering what the fuck is going on between these two bitches.
Yeah.
But like
These two people seem angry. Just keep playing mahjong. We're gonna be okay. That scene is really good, but honestly, I like the scene on the stairs between the two of them more.
Oh yeah,
Especially like, I love it when you can see blocking in a movie. Like, I love it when it's like, oh, this was intentional and it works.
What
Like,
was
She
when-
really
like
about that
pushes
scene
her
is-
down the stairs.
Yes.
Well, what was great about
I
that
love it.
scene is you thought at the beginning of the scene you thought she was gonna be like, you know what, I've come to accept you.
Oh,
and
you've
instead,
broken the
and
ice.
and
Good
the
for you.
turn was just so vicious.
It's like that meme that's going around on Reddit where it was like, they had us in the first half.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
That scene, like, I was watching this with Chewy, who was deathly tired and just did not want to stay awake and she said, just tell me what happens. So she went to the bathroom to go brush her teeth and she said, come back and go to bed. And that scene happened while she was out of the room. And I paused it and rewound it. I'm like, you got to see this. Michelle Yeoh should have been up for an Academy Award for this scene alone.
I agree.
Yeah.
And like, that's my favorite scene in the whole movie. And as much as I would have loved a scene where I could have a laugh out loud remembrance, I can still have this scene. I might not ever go back to the movie, but I loved that scene.
I mean,
That's a great
if
scene.
Michelle Yeoh said that to me, I would just be destroyed for the rest of my life. I would not be
I was
capable of
destroyed when I
arranging
watched
a
it.
mahjong
It
game.
hurt.
I felt hurt. I was hurt. Personally hurt.
I wish I understood mahjong because
Same.
in reading some, well, no,
Yeah.
because there's like a whole conversation happening on
Yeah.
And
in
she
the
pulls up that
tiles.
tile and looks at it, and there's an
Yeah.
insert, and you're like, this is clearly a very important tile. I have
And that-
no idea what it means.
That symbol they used in the decor throughout the movie, I
Yeah.
think it has something to do with mothers or whatever. Like, one of my favorite celebrity bloggers is this Canadian Chinese woman named Elaine Louie, and she has been writing about this movie like crazy. And she's like, the mahjong scene was so cool. Here's what happened. And I forgot to pull up the article because she like explained the conversation they were having, but it was basically just like Rachel sacrificed this important tile and still managed to win because she like trumped her. It was really cool. I don't
also
know,
like
but I
watching-
don't understand.
I like watching that one lady tried to take that towel, and Michelle Yeoh was like, fuck you, bitch.
hand. It was just like poosh, like that little hand. It was such a mean little gesture. Like, ugh.
But it's one of those things where, like, that woman sitting next to her knows who she is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
she clearly is like, oh, I need that piece. Never mind. I don't need it. I'm good.
Speaking of mysterious old ladies, though, on the plane, Rachel's mom is there, and then there's the engagement thing, which, by the way, he only did that because his mom gave him permission, but which bothers me. But anyway, like during the engagement thing, when he's like, he shows her the ring, and the lady behind her says, "She says yes." It's who the fuck is that lady? Because she's clearly with Rachel's mom, and we have never seen her before in
Oh,
this
she's
movie.
not. She was just a random lady that
But
was
she's
yelling
hugging
at
her.
Oh yeah, she was just excited for her. 'cause
Okay,
that
that
was,
was weird. All right, I thought that lady was like with them, and I was like, where the fuck did she come from?
No, she's just a nosy old lady.
okay. All right.
Oh yeah, once I saw her behind her, I was like, okay, you're gonna be really happy for him too.
Okay, I just thought because she was hugging Rachel's mom, so I just know there was just a random stranger hug because her daughter just got engaged in public on an airplane. Okay.
My moment that was kind of like that was during the montage, like the dress trying on montage. About halfway through, I was like, totally forgot Ken Jeong was in this movie. Like, he's just all around. I'm like, who the hell is this annoying guy? Then he turns, you actually see his face. I'm like, oh, forgot he was in this movie.
And he's really creepy, as
Yep.
is that kid. Oh my god, that's the other thing. The kid is when she and her mom are laying on the bed talking, and they turn up, and that like fucking creepy kid is there.
Yeah, they
and
just
they're like,
laugh at
they
PT.
laugh. That is not a laughing moment.
I was very
That was a
confused.
very weird, like, directorial
He took a
choice.
fucking picture of
And then he slides out of the frame. He doesn't just walk out of the frame. He slides.
And they're like, isn't he
He's like, I've only been here a little. And I'm just like, it's like Will said, he goes, that was like a cutaway from 50 Shades. It was so stupid.
The horror movie, the serial killer movie aspect. That kid is clearly a serial killer.
Yeah.
She can be yours now. Yeah.
Fucking PT. Goon.
What have we missed? Like, I know that stuff
I want
we've
to point
missed.
one thing out. The music choices. What was interesting to me, just one detail, is that almost all the music in this movie was pop songs that had been translated into, I'm assuming, Chinese.
Yeah, specifically Cantonese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except one. When she was when she was walking down the aisle, they did "I Can't Help Falling in Love with You" in English, and I thought that was a really weird choice, since every single other cover in the movie was not in English. This one was.
The difference is diegetic versus non-diegetic. Like whenever it
fancy
was
vocabulary
Ooh,
words.
Part of that
But-
is also because all the songs were in Cantonese, which is what they speak in Singapore when they're rich. But Araminta is from mainland China, I believe, in the books, and her family would have spoke Mandarin. So you solve that by doing things in English.
Also, Amma
I believe.
speaks Mandarin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because whenever I had subtitles, whenever she says something, it says in Mandarin.
Yeah.
So it's not in Cantonese.
Because that's all Rachel knows.
Yeah.
And Amma is from mainland China, and her story becomes really important later on in the books.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
What
wow.
were you saying
But-
about
so from-
Dianetics?
Diegetic versus non-diegetic.
Okay.
It's the
I'm
sound.
an editor and I can never remember those terms, by the way. Yeah. It's like I always just go, needle drop or source, like diegetic and non-diegetic. Yeah.
So is it being played in the world of the movie, or is it being played for the audience?
Okay.
So if it's diegetic, that means that everyone in the movie can hear it. So the one time that we have English words, or when the people in the movie can hear it, which makes sense with the two different languages. But when it's for just us, it's always in Cantonese. Which I thought was like, the movie is like the people who made the movie were smart about it. Like there's so much like good things at work. I just kind of get disappointed that like I feel like they kind of missed a little bit on story elements when they're more slave to the book, which is again fine, and that's kind of what you expect from these sorts of things. But
I feel like John Chu was an interesting choice for it too, because he's such a workaday, like a journeyman director.
Yeah.
He's not an auteur, I guess.
And-
Although his concert films are great.
Yeah,
But I think that's the thing. They went for the bombast instead of the artsy.
Yeah.
It was very non-pretentious, and I think that was to reach a wider audience.
yeah, totally. And I don't think
know.
I think he did a really good job.
Oh, yeah.
I think if he comes back for the sequel, I'd be surprised.
Oh no, he's back.
Oh, is he? I figured they'd try to find somebody else after they found out how much of a global moneymaker this thing can be.
Nah, dude, because he also made a $60 million movie look like it was $120 million.
Yeah.
You don't turn your back on someone like
Yeah.
Hollywood turns their back on everyone.
Although let's give credit to the fucking art department.
Oh,
'cause that's who
100.
did
Yeah.
the bulk of the work
That's-
here.
yeah.
You know, and
They had
and costumes.
Yeah, like the people who the shoppers for this movie did a good job.
Yeah.
I'm
Also
sure
just-
Chewie were here. She'd have a lot of opinions.
Also, just the sheer amount of negotiation they did with like the Singaporean government and tourist boards and stuff to be able to use Singapore, it was really cool.
Yeah, especially as like a Western film, like that's the majority of the movie was shot there. Like that's impressive.
What's interesting though is the second book takes place mostly in mainland China and like not Hong Kong, but like mainland China.
Sure, yeah.
And it didn't do well in China because it is a story for Asian Americans, not for the Chinese.
Exactly.
And they think that like flaunting wealth and stuff is super fucking tacky.
Right.
So they don't know if they'll be able to shoot in mainland China.
Not only that, but actually China has so many rules. Whenever outside productions come into China, they have to navigate their censorship, which is always the goalpost is always moving.
Yeah.
So like in the Karate Kid, for example, in the Chinese version, they like edit it to it actually looks like Will Smith's kid. I forget his name right now. It's actually the one taunting the Chinese kids that are picking on him. Like they just.
I want to see that version so much.
I know, yeah, no. Like so, I'm actually very curious to see if they do the sequel. If they're clearly they're gonna want to reach the Chinese audience because that's
it's the second biggest market
exactly.
in the film. Yeah.
So it's just on that aspect, the sequel is gonna be very interesting to watch and follow. See if they make it happen, if they shoot it in China, in or outside of China, and then, like that in itself, I'm very curious to see how it plays out.
I don't know if the sequel will even get a release in China though, because the
This
first
one
one
did
did
not do
so
well at all,
poorly.
yeah.
Yeah, because I know like we play so well in China at Illumination.
Yeah.
Like I'm weirdly like we spend a lot of time negotiating with China.
Well, that's most movies right now. A lot of American films do really well in China.
But they're also moving away from, they want Chinese money back in China. So
Yeah, of
they're
course.
allowing fewer and fewer films a year.
One of the good things about this movie is that it introduced the American audiences to a lot of Asian actors who are attractive and talented, and made them into movie stars. So, because that's the big excuse whenever you write a screenplay with a lead who's Asian, people will be like, oh, well, there's just no one who's big enough to play this character. And that's always the excuse that we've been given. Well, now here's a whole movie full of them.
Yeah.
Take your pick. They've all been in a movie that made $1 bazillion, and all of them qualify as movie stars. So shut the fuck up and cast Asian people.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a single person in this movie I'm like, well, they didn't deserve to be there. Like, they all did a great job. Like,
What's
the entire
crazy
cast
is
was
this
phenomenal.
was Henry Golding's first movie.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He's only ever been a TV presenter.
Yeah.
He'd never acted before.
Really?
They did a really good job.
And what's dope is he's also married to a woman who is an Asian British actress, and she's like, her star is on the rise because she was so beautiful and just kept showing up on red carpets with it.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, they were like, ooh, who's this hottie with this hottie? And then and
But
now
this is
we
his
all know
first
who
movie.
the-
That's
It's
amazing.
his first
'cause-
movie. And then Paul Feig cast him to be Blake Lively's love interest in that movie with Anna Kendrick this summer.
A Simple Plan.
Yeah.
A Simple Favor.
A Simple Favor.
Oh,
That was
wow.
a good movie. He was good in it. But like, it's crazy because this was his first movie, and now he's like, I hope I see him all the time.
He did a really
He's
good
very
job.
good looking.
Yeah, he's a good looking guy, and he did a good job. Like, he wasn't the strongest actor in the movie, which now, knowing that it's his
Sure,
first,
but
makes
like
sense.
Charlie Hunnam has a career and has never convinced me of anything other than he's got a nice ass, you know? Like, give Henry Golding a chance to do the same.
My best will always be Jai Courtney. He can't act.
Oh my God.
He full on can't
Oh,
act.
no, wait a minute. Spartacus.
I've never watched Spartacus.
Okay,
He's
well,
also
watch
really
Spartacus.
funny in the Wet Hot American Summer TV show.
He's very fun, and he was very
He's
funny
amazing
in
in Spartacus.
he was okay in He's probably
Maybe-
the second best
you know
actor
what?
in Suicide Squad.
He-
But
Maybe he just should. I would say maybe he just shouldn't be playing Americans. It could be his
Yeah, maybe
American
it
is
could be
bad
that,
because when
but
he
it-
plays an Australian, he's great.
sure, but either way, like, if that guy can have a career,
I guess.
this guy should have a career.
Was he an Australian in Spartacus? I mean, he did his accent. Did he do his accent? No, I don't know. But either way, he's great in Spartacus. That's all, and I will die on that hill.
I still haven't watched Spartacus.
Okay, we
I'm not
have to.
sure if
Very
I will.
bloody.
I
For
like-
someone
I'm
who
fine with
avoids gore as much as I do, Spartacus had a lot of it.
I don't avoid gore, but I just that show just never grabbed me either. I don't know why.
It's very homoerotic.
Yeah, I'm fine with all that.
Yeah,
I watched
alright.
Oz. There's a lot of dudes in
That's
Oz.
true.
Is that homoerotic or just it happens
Homo
to
horrifying.
be? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to be into what's happening.
No.
There is some like glam shots, but they're few and far between, and usually followed by horrible things.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't know.
All of Oz is just horrible. Very good show though. I think at that point we're officially ready for quotes.
Quotes, quotes, quotes.
Somehow Oz got into Crazy Rich Asians.
That makes sense.
And when I go back to edit this one, I'll figure out how the hell that happened. I'll go first. Mine is an Aquafina quote because, of course, it is. It's when she figures out that Rachel is going to be going to the Young's house and not just to her boyfriend Nick's house. And she's looking at the dress that she's wearing, and she needs to change her. And she says, "Tonight you need to not look like Sebastian from The Little Mermaid." You know, little crab guy. It was the little crab guy that got me.
Mine is also Aquafina. When I love the fake ceremony of when she pulls up in the car to the house and he's just like, "You have to stay for dinner," and she's like, "No, I can't. Please stay for dinner." "No, I don't want to impose." "Stay for dinner." "Okay, fuck it." No, wait, what's the
That line is amazing.
That's a great delivery.
The line
That is actually
like,
the funniest
"Fuck it, I'm
moment.
coming to dinner." Because she has been impatiently like running through the motions, and so is he. It's like this like dance they have to do. She knows she's coming, he knows she's coming, but they still have to like, she still has to deny it 3 times, and then she's so eager. "Fuck it, I'm coming to dinner."
In her high fashion jammies
Oh my
and her
God,
6-inch heels.
That also that globe, as you pointed out, as Gabriel pointed out when we were watching it, that the bag that she uses that has the map on it, that's how she points out where all the families are from. That was such a really
It's a great
cool
gag. Just
Yeah.
putting the map on a bag. It's like it's so.
Works great for Carrot Top.
Oh.
Oh.
And we got him in there too. Wow.
I got Oz and Carrot Top in this. I feel pretty good.
That'll be great for SEO.
Can I go?
Yes.
All right, so mine is when Oliver introduces himself and says he's the rainbow-colored sheep of the family. They never explicitly mention his sexuality in the books, and it's like, it's written obviously, but it was nice that they just like went out and said it here. It was like, yeah, cool.
I always forget that actor's name. That guy's awesome.
He's great.
Yeah. I told Chewie she should have asked him to be on the show today, and she's like, I will never ask him.
Does she know him?
He's on Superstore.
Oh, I didn't know.
Why won't she ask him?
Because she's in the art department.
Take one for the team,
That's
Chewie.
what I was like. Yeah, just go ask him.
I don't
He
think
seems
she
like a nice guy.
understands how much I love him.
Yeah.
Just play that clip right there.
Yeah.
So my quote is, I think from Ken Jeong. Let me get this straight. You both went to the same school, yet someone came back with a degree that's useful, and the other one came back as Asian Ellen.
Although he had just said that he majored in thought.
That's a good point.
You see
said
Fullerton? It was like not even like one of the top tier UCs. Like, no offense to anyone that went to Fullerton.
No, yeah. That happened. All those happened in such succession that, yeah.
Mine is, I'm so Asian, I'm an economics professor with lactose intolerance. I like
wish
that line
everyone could have
ironically.
seen your
The,
face.
the audio does not capture Gabriel's face. That was amazing.
As we were watching it, every time there was a scene with like really obvious exposition, he would just look over at me and be like, "This is really great writing."
So subtle. Wow. Yeah, very subtle. Thank you, Mr. Exposition. Yeah.
You really like Nolan movies, don't you?
We'll save that for another
Don't-
podcast.
you don't want to have that argument. No, that's gonna be a bad car ride.
You'd agree with me, possibly. There'd be one. I'd have one.
I'm not a big fan.
I didn't know
What?
that.
How dare
Oh,
you? How
yeah.
dare
I didn't know we
everyone?
agreed on
How dare
Nolan.
everyone?
Yeah.
I am.
Oh, how about
I'm.
that?
I'm
so
pretty
happy.
much middle.
Yeah, I knew you're a middle. I'm usually slightly on the.
I mean, I
negative
love
side
The
of middle.
Prestige. I think The Prestige is his best film.
Oh, there
It's
we
my
disagree.
least
Why-
favorite.
No, I don't like this turning into a Nolan bashing session.
We got Nolan in this one too.
All inclusive.
Any other
Batman
guys?
vs Superman. Green Lantern.
Doctor Who?
Doctor. There we go. I think we've got pretty much every nerd reference.
Okay.
Black Panther's up for an Academy Award. There we go.
Checkers.
Many Academy
Well, we
Awards.
forgot Lord of the
I don't know,
Rings.
that's
Oh,
what
wait,
I'm
we'll get there for
Yeah,
plugs.
plugs. Yeah, we get it. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well,
Has
we don't
everybody
wanna
gotten their
go
quote?
plugs
Or
yet.
we're done with quotes?
We're done with quotes.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move into review system. Fish out of water movies.
It's so much harder that we can't get the fucking internet.
I
The
know.
Little Mermaid.
Oh,
A literal fish
bitch.
out of water and a bland but attractive male love interest. Some dope ass women fighting over him.
I'm gonna go with Jupiter Ascending.
Okay.
Mostly because it's another girl who's in a fish out of water situation, and they went crazy on the style and kind of on the story. Jupiter Ascending.
Along those lines, God. Oh, I already hate myself. John Carter of Mars.
Okay.
Wow.
Because
You and Taylor Kitsch, man.
Yeah.
why?
You show up for Taylor
I
Kitsch.
do?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
you do.
it's-
Yeah, she does.
I didn't think I did.
She does. She does. Yeah.
I
Called out by Gabriel.
wait. I didn't even like Friday Night Lights. Okay, so
What do you think of Battleship?
Yeah. Oh, dude, you beat me to it. You
I
beat me
show
to
up for
it.
Battleship.
is so
That's
good,
not-
though.
It is so good. Thank you.
I like Battleship. A legless man boxes an alien.
Right? Yeah, Chewie's not here. Chewie hates Battleship. Okay.
wrong.
Chewie's still mad at me for making her watch that. Yeah, because all right, it's not a great movie, but it's an entertaining movie.
Sure.
And he does have to there is a love interest and he does have to impress her family in order to win the girl.
Yep, that works.
Okay. I did it.
All right, I'm gonna do Blast from the Past with Brendan Fraser.
Oh boy.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. You know.
That is not Brendan Fraser's only fish out of water movie
No.
either.
It's
Like
not.
George
But
of the
I-
He
Jungle.
loves being a fish out of
Yeah,
water.
and
But
Cinnamon,
as with, like-
Cinnamon,
George
George of the Jungle.
Jungle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But as with like this one, I'm still
The
kind
Mummy?
of middling
No.
on the movie. Like my reaction to both is
Mummy
kind of like
free,
the same
though.
at the end. Is like, okay, I enjoyed it.
I talked over everything because she mentioned mummy movies. I get really excited about
Oh.
mummy movies. I'm assuming you did a great job.
I'll recap. I enjoyed both equally.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Who hasn't gone?
All right. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay,
Wow.
that actually
you're-
works. Yeah.
So that implies that you like the movie.
I love Spider-Man in 2.
No, I mean, it implies that you.
I misunderstood the rules then.
Review System is a movie that you would equate quality.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
I don't understand it because I feel like Crazy Rich Asians is maybe better than John Carter of Mars, but
You can stick with Into Spider-Verse if you
have
want to give
it.
a super
you
high
can,
praise.
You can. But yeah,
That's
it would
fine.
imply that you really liked it.
We-
No, I did not like Crazy Rich. I just want to go on record. For when I become a successful person and people are
You
listening
are a successful person.
through all podcasts and seeing who did I threw shade at, so the Twitter can come after me. I just want to go on record saying I did not like Crazy Rich Asians.
Don't at me. You got it. But you still got to pick a movie.
Nah, this is.
Oh wait,
Oh, dude, let's
Solo.
have one.
Solo.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's a great choice. Okay.
Yeah, I walked out of that movie. I finished it on Netflix like a week or two ago.
And you found out you didn't miss much?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, people
No.
talk shit about Pirates of the Caribbean having like 5 different third acts, but like Solo?
Whole movie's a third act.
Yeah.
That's
He
it.
he
right?
does walk out of movies.
I can't do it.
frequently.
I can't
Half
do
of
it.
them, yeah.
I wish I could. I've only walked out of one movie my entire life, and that was Frailty, and that's because my friend was high on shrooms and was ruining the movie, so
Oh.
we
Oh,
had
I
to
was
leave.
gonna say
If
that's
I-
a great ass movie. Though.
I like
That's
the movie.
one of
I
my
love Bill
faves.
Paxton.
Oh
If
my
I ever
God.
say that I walked out of a movie, it's because he made me.
Yeah.
My buddy Graham used to have a girlfriend who did that, and he was always annoyed. And it's like, well, then don't leave. He's like, but she wants to. All right, well then.
Yeah.
That's,
If you
that's what
ask me
get.
to stay, I will let you.
Okay. I feel like there was a movie.
You will let her
where I
ask you to
did-
stay? There's still a chance I'll
You
say
have
no.
Let's go.
Request denied. Veto. We're leaving.
Not staying for this piece of shit. So that's it for today. I think it's time for a round of pluggity plug plugs. Listen to Venture Bros, Venture Bros podcast every Monday. We are just about done with season 3. We're on to disc 2 for those of you following along with DVDs or Blu-rays. And it has been a blast. And we're finally through the desert of season 3, which is a 2-episode stretch of just garbage.
Good.
And now we're starting up. We're actually recording tomorrow with one of my favorite openings of any episode in season 3, which is Tears of the Sea Cow. So listen to that episode. It is already out, I believe. No, it comes out on Monday. So listen to that one on Monday. I'm very excited about it. That's it for me, though.
I've got a podcast coming out soon, trademark, called Demon Days. It's a tabletop role-playing RPG show, actual play podcast. And yeah, it's about the fiends and the friends at the table who play them.
I'm gonna be in it.
Yep, and Sam's going to be in it.
Hey, why am I not in it?
I'm in it.
What the fuck?
Because you like Battleship.
Wait, I also like that.
Sorry, I had to-
also like Battleship.
Yeah.
That hurts.
I don't believe what I said.
I'm
so,
only an announcer in it, so
Yeah. You can still be in it.
There's
We'll got to
still
deal with this argument later.
there's still time.
Yeah.
There's still time.
There's still time.
Sam, what about you?
So I have a podcast called Samwise, in which I answer every question people throw at me using the Lord of the Rings extended editions and their special features. If you would like to ask me a question, you can call me at 608-561-2755 or email sam.wise.ath@gmail.com. I've also got The Grinch is coming out on Blu-ray on February 5th, and I produced the special features.
It's so good.
The
I
movie's
love
good.
The movie.
The special features are good. There is an Easter egg in which I managed to work my dog's name into it.
Nice.
Nice.
So yeah, check it out on Blu-ray. If you have 4K or HD Blu-ray, it is one of the best and most drastic differences between Blu-ray and 4K that Deluxe has ever put out. They're really proud of it. So if you're fancy and have that system, check it out.
Chewy will not let me buy a 4K TV, so I don't have one. I'm okay with this.
Will and I
You have
are
a 4K child.
We do have a 4K child.
Will and I are regretting not having like a proper wedding reception because we wanted the money to buy a 4K TV.
TV will last longer than the wedding the memory of the wedding reception.
I was gonna say, did you say you're married?
Than the memory of the wedding reception.
Having a girlfriend helps keep the marriage alive.
There you go.
Oh,
Oh, we can cut that if you don't want it.
not at all. No.
I'm gonna leave that part in for sure.
Yeah.
Emily, plugs.
I still sew stuff. Although I'm
There needs to be a site that's like, does Emily still sew stuff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
No. Yes.
I'm gonna be on set. I'm gonna be in the next episode, but then I'm gonna be on set for a whole month, so I don't know how much sewing I'm gonna be doing. But I do. If you still want a 13 Doctor coat, I'm also about to come out with a clothing line. Now that the shutdown's over, and I'm gonna be getting some checks for reasons. But I'm also gonna be having a podcast out soon. That is going to be called a Dogs Podcast, and we are going to be talking about movies from the perspective of the canine secondary characters. Will
Jupiter Ascending be included?
Is Jupiter Ascending got a dog in it?
I love dogs.
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum is a dog.
Oh, he is?
He's a dog
I did
person.
not finish that movie.
You didn't miss much.
Okay.
But he's not a supporting character. You said
It has to be a supporting character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It
not
has a
main,
lead.
not the main character.
Okay.
So we're gonna start. I'm gonna actually recording for the first episode tomorrow with my friend and former roommate Brian Scully, and we are going to be talking about Best in Show. So that'll be our first episode.
nice.
Yeah. Finally, somebody picked one, and and then I don't know where we're going from there, but that's where we're getting started. So look for that to drop as soon as it is ready.
Perfect. Gabriel, anything to plug?
Oh my god, you guys are making me feel really unproductive.
You plugged the trailer at the beginning.
You guys can look forward to my guest appearance on Emily's podcast on the episode about Back to the Future.
Oh, there you go.
Whenever that is, we will do it
When it happens.
when it happens.
I showed up here, so I'm not all talk.
Okay, so then that brings today's episode to a close. Be sure to turn in next week when we talk about The Nun. It is a movie, and I am excited to talk about it. As excited as I am to talk about it as I am to never watch it again. So there's a short preview for you. Thank you very much for listening, and bye.
Bye.